Well, hello, and welcome to the In a Flash, The Years Go By podcast, where the Vernon, Texas High School class of 1982 alumni come home to tell the stories that shaped us long after we left the halls of VHS. I'm Ray Gerald, and every episode I have the privilege of visiting with a fellow Vernon Lion to revisit our high school days in Big V and share moments, memories, and milestones that carried us from our Vernon roots to wherever life took us next. These are the real-life journeys of classmates that walked the same halls, cheered under the same Friday night lights, roamed the Lion's Den floor, dragged Wilbarger Street, and watched the same Vernon, Texas sky light up. Our stories always begin in Vernon. Go, Lions! Hey, how you doing? Hey, welcome to today's episode of In a Flash, The Years Go By podcast. Today, we're talking with Kyle Whitt. And so we'll get to hear Kyle's story of what high school was like for him and where life has taken him to today. So let me admit him in and we'll hear his story.
You there,
Kyle,
Ray? Hey, I
hey.
finally figured it out.
All right, man. All right. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. You know, when you said you're going to be in your game room,
Uh-huh.
uh, I see there's a lot of game behind you. So this is a true game
Yes.
room. Cool,
Yeah,
man.
you've seen it before, hadn't you?
No, I've never seen that before. No,
Oh, I thought you were over here one time.
no, not that I recall anyway.
Okay, well, okay.
All right.
Yeah. No, this is my game room right here. I
All
kind
right.
of spin it around. It's a mess.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty pretty
it's a
impressive.
mess. It's a mess. It's
All
an
right.
absolute mess. I'm getting ready to go to a Tulsa gun show,
Okay.
so
Well,
that's kind of where I
first,
got everything out.
well, let me just say thanks for saying yes to doing this podcast thing. We're uh, uh, what we're going to be doing is having people just talk about their story of what high school was like for them and kind of what their life has been like since high school and what brought them to where they are today. So you were the first one that actually said yes. Uh,
Well,
so
I'm excited. I really
yeah,
am. So yeah,
that's
sounds
cool.
good.
Good. Okay, cool. So first of all, my first question is, I didn't move to Vernon until the summer before my freshman year. So did
Okay.
you grow up in Vernon or are you from there?
So I was born in Wichita Falls,
Okay.
and my father was in the military. We were over in Germany for 3 years, and then I was back in Wichita Falls because my father was a teacher. He was a biology teacher and an English teacher at Ryder High School.
Okay.
And then in 1972, they opened Vernon Junior College, and he got a job as a professor. And I had an aunt that lived in Vernon. And so, because my dad's originally from San Saba, Central Texas, we had a farm down there. And went the opportunity, Vernon Junior College, my dad took that as to be he was a biology teacher and then became the dean of the school and all that. And I believe that was in 74.
Okay.
And
So
74, we moved there. We lived in Oakland Union for a couple of years. Then
Oakland
we moved
Union.
to
Okay.
Oakland Union. Yes, we lived in Oakland Union for 2 years.
All right.
And then it's a funny story. Actually, my dad says he was paying $55 a month for a house in Oakland Union.
Wow. Okay.
And then he bought that house on Hillcrest that we've lived in, ever since my mom and dad still live in Hillcrest. And he was so stressed because his mortgage payment on that house was $97 a month.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
He paid $11,000 for that
It was
house.
big money back then, you know?
I'm
Oof.
telling you, man.
All
But
right.
yeah, as that was a long
Okay.
answer, but yes, I guess from third grade on,
Very good. Okay.
I was in Vernon, Texas for
Okay.
the most part.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank that helps me to kind of get bearings of who grew up there, who didn't, like somebody like me that came in, much later.
Mm.
Well, when you think of high school, um, what's what's one memory or some memories that come to mind when you think of
You,
VHS?
I was thinking about that just the other day, right? Uh, my memories were like socializing with all the friends. We didn't have Facebook and we didn't have, cell phones and social media. Here's what we had: we had Wilbarger Street.
Yeah.
So we drove up and down Wilbarger Street.
Yeah.
We had of course, I'm not saying I ever drank underage, but we had the keg parties we'd always go to,
Yeah.
and Matt Thiele always had awesome keg parties along with Kevin Short.
Okay.
And so we would, that's how you socialize with your friends. You got in the cars, you drove up around down Wilbarger, you chased the girls and you camped out at Osborne's parking lot or the
Yeah.
Sonic. And
Yeah.
that was kind of my memories, right? I wasn't
Okay.
an athlete, but just kind of socializing and stuff.
Okay. Cool, man. That's good. Well, what words or phrases come to mind when you think of high school?
So when I was, what words or phrases when I think of high school? High school was very enjoyable for me. I had a lot of friends there. Uh, I was in ag class, and I kind of think that high school taught me how to work. Really,
Mm.
I really taught me how to. It was the first time I had my own. I was working at Graf's Hog Farm, and I was working at Big John's fruit stand when I was like in the 8th grade. So that was a little before high
Wow.
school.
Okay.
But so I guess that kind of maybe gave me a work ethic. Work ethic. I'm thinking.
Okay. Sounds good.
So
Okay.
I don't know if that was a phrase, but that was kind of what shaped me a little bit, right?
Yeah. Enjoyable work ethic. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Uh, did you have jobs or a part-time job during school, or is that just the summer work
No, it was. I mean, I'm
all the
telling you.
time?
So my dad, like I said before, my dad he was a college professor. We had one income. It was my dad's income. And if I wanted to, have Wrangler jeans and Tony Lama boots and stuff, I had to have a job.
Yeah.
So I basically got a job when I was in the 8th grade working at Big John's fruit stand.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe 7th grade actually, and maybe 7th, 8th grade, and then from there, the big tornado came through in 1979,
Yeah. Freshman
and
year.
yeah, freshman year, and so then I went out to Graf's Hog Farm, and I worked there at Graf's Hog Farm for David and Charles Graff, and that's when I really started making the big money. I think I was making 275 an hour
Ooh, all right.
At Graf's Hog Farm. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Big money. All
yeah,
right.
that's when I started making the big money out there.
Right. Okay.
So
So for those people that are listening that maybe aren't from Vernon, Vernon is kind of the midway point between Fort Worth and Amarillo, kind of on the Red River. And so Oakland Union, you mentioned, is a little, I guess, on 287, like 287, just southeast of Vernon, right?
yep,
Kind of
yep,
side.
yep.
And so when we moved to Vernon, I was in Elliott.
Okay.
They call it bug scuffle. So
Yeah,
giving people the
exactly.
general area of kind of where we are, close to Altus, just over the river from Altus, Oklahoma, and Frederick, Oklahoma, that kind of general area of
Okay.
north central Texas. I'm just giving people a picture of what Vernon is or where it
Yep.
is. Cool. Are there? So you talked about ag. Were there What activities were you involved in? School activities? You said
You,
you
you,
weren't an athlete,
uh,
but
no, so I was in FFA, Future Farmers of America.
okay.
That's kind of where I fit in, right? I kind of fit in there. And then I got into the, back then, and I think they're trying to bring it back now, but back then, we had work programs. So
Yeah.
you were either in, I think it was, what was it,
Was there DECA,
ITC.
ITC, DECA, stuff like
You had
that?
you had one that, so my wife Norma, we'll get to her in a minute.
Okay.
She was in the secretarial part of that,
Okay.
because they called them secretaries back then.
Yeah.
And then you had teachers, so you had future teachers, then you had the guys that were like mechanics and stuff, but I was in the ag program. So
Okay.
what that meant is, I went to class for this. I think this started in my junior year. I went to class for maybe, I got out at lunch,
Wow. Okay.
and then I would show up at the hog farm, and I worked there one year. I worked at the hog farm. That was like a 7 day a week job. And I worked with Charles Nethery. If you remember
Charles
Charles,
Ritter, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
me and Charlie worked together uh, out there. And then my junior year, they grass went a different direction. They quit doing the co-op program, and I went to work for Texas A&M Experiment Station. and
Okay.
Lockett, and then from there I was at Lockett and Chillicothe, and that was my most fun job ever.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
that was a fun job.
Cool.
I have great memories of that job.
So in
So
school for half the day and then working half the day. So you did
work
have the
half a
work
day.
ethic, man.
Yeah,
All
yep.
right. Cool, man.
So
All
you
right.
know, there are a lot of guys did that. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, guys in Vernon, Terry Newton, he was in that
Hmm.
program. Man, I'm thinking Joby Lucas was in that program.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure Joby was
All
in
right.
our class.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, they'll hear their names hopefully if they're watching this, and they'll see
yeah,
what's going on with them. Maybe we can get
yeah.
them to talk about them. Do you have any funny stories about these jobs that you had, whether the hog farm or the fruit stand or the extension or the experiment
Well,
station?
so you know, the hog farm was probably the one that really taught me how to work. Right, uh, you know, hogs don't take off. I mean,
Okay.
it was 7 days a week,
Okay.
and I don't know if it's a funny story, but we'd roll up there and you know we'd so a lot of times I rode my bicycle out there, honestly.
Wow, all the way to Lockett. So for
And
the folks that
all
don't
the
know, Lockett's a farming community just kind of
yeah,
south of
yeah,
Vernon, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, it was, you know, they were actually that hog farm was actually not in Lockett. It was
Oh,
halfway between Vernon and Lockett.
okay, okay.
So it was literally about 7 miles from my house.
Wow, on a
And
bike.
and
Okay.
on a bicycle, yeah, and I'd ride my bicycle out there, man. I
Yeah.
mean, I really would until I got a car,
Right,
you
right,
know.
right.
But so I guess the funny story was is we you kind of roll up and you see the barn out there, and if you saw a semi truck, you knew 800 bales of hay were going on that semi truck,
Oh, man.
and they didn't tell you,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you know. And you see that semi, you go, oh my gosh, you know,
Okay.
this is going to be a day,
All
yeah.
right. Cool.
So,
All
but yeah,
right.
that's kind of, I don't know if it's a funny story, but it's
Yeah,
we would do that, right?
that is funny.
So
All right, cool. So what was there a moment in high school that kind of you think about that you talked about work ethic and it was enjoyable, high school was enjoyable. Is there any moment that
I lost you,
shaped?
Ray.
Oh, still there? Can you hear me?
I got you. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
got okay. There's a moment in high school. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Says my internet connection is unstable at the moment. We got some clouds rolling in, maybe. Sorry. Uh, is there a moment in high school that maybe shaped the direction of your life and kind of to where you're at now that you're looking back? Was there something in high school? I know you had the work ethic, and is there something that you
You know,
remember?
I think that high school, the moment that shaped me, uh, I think there was, yeah. So I was probably not going in the best direction when I was, you know, freshman, sophomore. Uh, I just wasn't. I wasn't hanging around with the best characters. And a guy moved into Vernon, and his name was Brent Williams.
Okay. Yeah.
And when Brent Williams moved in, he moved down the street. His dad was at the college. And when I met Brent, I kind of figured out that, you know, being the class clown, you know, not paying attention in school, actually turning your homework in, making better than C's. You, so I'll be honest with you, Ray. My philosophy was anything better than a C showing off. I mean,
Wow.
I just didn't care,
Right.
you know. But once I kind of started hanging around Brent, you know, he had a direction. He wanted to be an engineer, and so I started taking, you know, I guess I could take algebra class. I can, you know, instead of FOM math, let me do that, you know.
Yeah.
And my dad was, I wore my dad out. I mean,
Mhm.
my dad was a professor. You know, he was academics, and I was the oldest son, complete opposite of that.
Mm.
I mean, I had no interest in school. I had no interest. But once I met Brent, I kind of started thinking, you know, I probably ought to pay attention. And you know, the number one thing that kind of figured it out for me was, you know, if you just read the chapter, you can probably answer those questions a lot better. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that was awakening. You know, oh my
Amazing.
God, I could, you know, if you just did your whole paid attention in class. And I would say the teacher that actually was the biggest influence on me was a teacher by the name of Bill Drury.
Mm.
And I don't know if people remember him. He was a math teacher.
Mhm.
He was a single guy. He lived in Altus, Oklahoma. And it was so funny, right? I mean, he was dry sense of humor.
Mhm.
And I never will forget this. He would say, and Bill was smart for his times, right? He would say, okay, and I had class with Brent. We were in algebra class. He go, okay, if any of you guys want to come to class, show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'll be here every morning 7, and we can work on the problems. We can work on homework problems.
Wow.
He said, I'll help you get through this. He goes, you guys can do it. And he looked at me like, and some of you guys need it, you know. And he said, but if you're a young lady, don't come by yourself.
Mm.
You bring somebody, or you bring one of your male counterparts, because we're not doing that. And I was like,
wow.
First time I went, man, I never even kind of thought of something like that.
Right.
Now it's an issue, right?
Yeah.
Or it has been. But actually, I kind of got off on that. Went a tangent on that. But no, but Bill Drury, he was a big influence as a teacher. Say, Kyle, you can do this. And from there, I took his algebra class. I took his algebra 2 class. I took his trigonometry class. I wasn't in there long enough to take his calculus class.
Right. Wow.
But I would say that was my biggest influence as a teacher.
Really?
Was Bill Drury.
Cool.
Yep.
That's interesting you say that, because that was one of the questions, as who impacted. So Brent, you and Brent hung out, I assume.
Yeah, and I kind of hung out with him and figured out, and then he kind of introduced me to a whole different group of people, because, like I said, I really wasn't. I was kind of hanging out in a group that wasn't probably going to go anywhere. Your friends, and I tell my kid this all the time, and I can prove it. Your friends, who you hang around, you show me who you hang around with, and I'm going to show you who you're going to be. Period. So you start hanging around guys, and that's and that was a lesson. That was a life lesson there. I figured out later. I wish I'd had maybe that influence earlier. Maybe when I was like 8th or 9th grade, or I'm not, or maybe 5th or 6th grade. Right. But you know what? Figured out in 10th grade, so it wasn't like I figured out in Huntsville.
Right. Yeah. So when you were in high school, working half the days, going to school, working, what did you think, or did you have a plan, like after graduation? What would that look like after graduation? Were you thinking about that? Were you thinking far ahead, that kind of stuff?
So I really wasn't, right? So I started dating. So I married my high school sweetheart, Norma Rios, who's Norma Whitt now, right? We're still very happily married. And I think I kind of think my thing there was I started dating Norma when I was like senior in high school,
Okay.
And once again, that was because I was hanging around Brent and I was hanging around different people, right? So I started dating Norma as a senior in high school. And when I was finished with high school, after my plan for high school, I think I was just kind of wanting to I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I kind of needed to go to college. My dad was all over me about going to college. I hated college, freaking hated it. But I took a job as an electrician's helper for Fancher Electric. Okay, so that's what I did, and I enjoyed it. I loved it, right? But I did the school the 2 years, because Norma did the school. I was going to hang out with her, so she did the junior college, and actually junior college to me was 13th and 14th grade. That's what it was.
Right. And she went to VRJC.
She went to VRJC,
Vernon Regional Junior College, for those of you.
Vernon Regional Junior College, yeah. So I went out there. And I'd take classes, and then I'd go to work after work. After work, I'd go work for Fancher, and I was working for him as an electrician. Once that was over, Norm was going to North Texas. I wasn't going to North Texas. I was done. And I was actually a decent electrician. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I really did. And so then Norma moved. She moved to Dallas Fort Worth, and I'm going to tell the story because it's kind of funny. I'm sitting in my apartment, and we're together, right? And we're together, and it bothered my dad so much that I did not graduate college. When I told him I was going to go off and be an electrician, it was you would have. I just crushed him. He was, my dad was, he's a doctor. He was the dean of the school. He was I didn't say this part about him. He was a colonel in the United States military. He was a lieutenant colonel. He was a light colonel. So he was academics.
Okay.
Academics.
Education is important to him.
And I'm just going to be a damn construction worker. You're just going to be a construction worker. That's what he told me. I don't know, Kyle. Construction work, it's kind of I don't know,
Yeah.
and so I was working down here, and my dad calls me up, 4 cell phones, and he calls me up. And he goes, "Hey, Kyle," he goes, "I was looking at your transcripts." So I was like, "Okay, I've been out of school. I've been out of school a year, right? Maybe
Hmm.
two." And he goes, you got enough credits to get associate's degree?" And I go, "Really?" He goes, "You do." He goes, "Look, I know you don't care." He goes, "I'm going to send you the paperwork." So he puts it in an envelope, sends it to me. He said, "Just sign it and send it back to me." And that
Okay.
was like in October.
All right.
So I did. And I sent it back. I didn't think anything about it. Christmas, and you're in Vernon, and we're exchanging presents. And my dad gives me this, what I think is a picture. God, open up, is my diploma.
All framed
And he
up.
goes, framed up. He goes, he goes, and I, because how they graduate in December, right?
Right.
And
Right.
he goes, "This means more to me than to you, but I want you to have this." And that's
Oh,
and that's how I got
nice.
my diploma.
Oh,
Was my
wow.
dad. I never would even fill the paperwork out, right? I would not have done it,
No.
you know.
Wow.
So I got my associate's degree, and I don't even know if that was part of your question, but I just
No,
think it's a funny story.
that's great. I'm surprised he didn't say, "This is a gift to you, but I'm going to put it in the house right next to my diploma," that he was going to put it
Yeah,
in his
yeah,
house,
exactly. Because my brother's an electrical engineer. My
Right.
sister, she's got a master's degree, and she works out at the center. She still lives in Vernon,
Okay.
and I think she's a master's in sociology or something. You
Okay.
know, here I am as just his construction worker son. But he tells that story, and he tells a story because he'll get people that say, "Hey, my son or my daughter, she wants to, be in cosmetology, or, my kid wants to do this." And now blue collars kind of, trades are in, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you need trades now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've always needed trades, but trades are the thing. But 20 years ago, that wasn't the
No.
case. I
Yeah.
mean,
You
20
had to go
years
to
ago, if you didn't have a
college.
college education, you were going to be, I mean, you were going to be poor,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and and so he would, and so he would tell people, he'd go, "Let me tell you, I got two sons. One of them, he's an electrical engineer. He worked for a major firm." He goes, "Then I got my other son. He's an electrician, master electrician, got his license, has his own company, 30 something guys work for him." He
Yeah.
goes, "He's doing okay too."
Yeah.
He said, "So if your kid's going in that direction, there's nothing wrong with that direction."
Yeah.
You
That's
know, he
right.
said, they just need to be happy.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. So success, looks different for different people. How would you because you're both in the electrical field, so to speak.
Hmm.
Your brother's a
Hmm.
electrical engineer, you're an electrician, master electrician.
Hmm.
What's the process? Because I know you said you started with Fancher. What I
Hmm.
hear is when I think of people as going electrician is, you get in with the union and you have to take tests, and how do you get licensing?
It's changed, right? It's totally changed. It's very hard now. They make it very difficult uh, to be a journalist. So what you do is you have to go. So back in those days, you went to work for an electrical contractor. He had a master's. All the licensing back in those days were by county. So if you had a license in Wilburger County, you really couldn't go work in Wichita County,
Oh,
unless you had a journeyman from Wichita County. If you had a license in Tarrant County, Houston, Austin, every county had their own licensing.
oh,
Every county had their own test. So Houston would make their test super hard. Wilbarger County, our test wasn't hard. I mean, it was 10 questions to get a German's license. The main thing is you had a board, and the board where, you had guys like Danny Fancher on the board, and you had the Harveys were on the board.
hmm,
You had the Wilcox. I'm just naming guys that were
sure,
on the board back then. There was another guy, and he was kind of the chief electrical inspector. So you had to work for 4 years. I got my license in two, just because Danny said, "Hey, whatever, we're going to say four because I need a
yeah,
journeyman." You
right.
know, and so basically it was 15 questions on the test, and he says, "And don't make 100." You
Okay.
know, and I probably
Don't
even
make a
shouldn't be saying
hundred.
this, but I am. But I am. He said, and so that's how I got that license, right? Well, then Wilbarger County. I mean, you can only work in Wilbarger. When I moved to Tarrant County, I mean, holy crap. I mean, they wouldn't take my license. So I had to start all over, take a lot of classes. Went to Tarrant County, took that test,
Oh,
and got my German's license there. And I
okay.
probably did that in '87. And then Tarrant County had a very hard master's license, very tough. And so I went to Dallas County to take my master.
Okay.
And once again, I took a lot of, I went to North Lake Junior College, took a lot of college prep classes for that.
Hmm.
I did the same thing in Tarrant County. I went to Tarrant County Junior College and took some of their classes too, just to get my German's license.
Right.
I didn't go the union route because unions, and it's a funny story, I did work union, but I didn't go the union route.
Hmm.
Uh, and once I got my license in Dallas, and then about I think, I can't remember the exact date, but I think somewhere in the '90s, like maybe mid '90s, it went to state license. So if you
Oh,
had a license from any, if you had a license in Wilbarger County as a master, which is what that should have been my plan all along, I just didn't do that. You could have got a state license. They
yeah.
would just transfer it. And now it's tough. There's no
No.
way. I mean, I'm not saying. I said I have to really, really study to pass that test now.
Okay.
I mean,
And is there a
it's a tough test.
do you once you have your master's or license or whatever, do you have to
Mhm.
retake it to get
No,
recertified?
no, you have to keep
Once you're in, you're
up
in.
you have to keep your continuous education hours,
Okay.
and you
Okay.
have to do all that, and then and you have to continue that, and I've kept all that up. I do.
Okay. All right.
So even though where I work now, they don't require it.
Okay.
My major contract with the Department of Treasury right now, and I've had that contract for a number of years.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
so
Let's talk about that for a while, if you're okay with that.
okay,
So you talked
sure.
about, for a couple of years you did the electrician thing and getting your
Mhm.
licensing, and so worked for Fancher. Then when you went to Tarrant County, what did
So
just a few
so
years of
so I
kind
went
of
to work.
your career kind of progression?
So what I did is I was following Norma, right? So Norma, that's a true story, guys. I was following Norma. I mean, Norma was no longer. She was going to go to work. She came down here. She went to work as a manager for Kmart. After
Okay.
her 4-year degree in North Texas, she went to work for manager at Kmart, and
Okay.
she's working in Arlington, and so I go, you know what? I told Danny, I said, Danny, I'm just going to go to Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay.
I go, I'm down there every weekend. I'm getting, I'm just, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
And he was good with it, And so I went there, and so then I worked for a number of electrical contractors.
So
I mean, I think one year
mid 80s ish.
it was '87.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I came to Dallas Fort Worth in '87.
Okay.
I worked at UTA. I did a high rise there.
So
I worked all over.
UT Arlington, University of
Yeah,
Texas
UT
Arlington.
Arlington. Yeah,
Okay.
I worked for a company called Kenmore Electric. We did a high rise. I worked with a high rise there. That was a crazy story. I mean, I show up there, and we had basically it was a depression, not a depression, but a recession back in those days.
Yeah.
There was no work. You
Oh.
couldn't hardly get a job. But I was coming down here work because Norma was down here. Got an apartment over in Arlington. It was me and Norma we were spending $360 a month in this apartment.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what our apartment cost.
Big money
And
too.
it was off a little road, and that apartment's still there.
Okay.
And but So I show up at this job site, and I kind of have a nice shirt on, I was clean cut looking because that's what you did in Vernon, in Wichita Falls and stuff.
Hmm.
You didn't look like, you didn't show up to the job site for your job interview in a Van Halen t-shirt, and you didn't look like you've been smoking weed all day long, and you actually took a bath, and you know, and so I show up, and there must have been like 200 guys. I'm not exaggerating. 200 guys out there for 40 jobs.
Wow.
And this guy gets up, and he's on this job trailer, and he looks across the thing, and he looks at me, and he goes, "What are you here for?" I go, I'm here for one of your for a job." And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "Come on, come in the job trailer." So I go in the job trailer, and he says, he goes, "So do you got a license?" I go, "Yeah, I got a license." He goes, "Well, we don't need your fucking license." I'm sorry, can I cuss, Ray? I apologize.
All right.
And he goes, there's only one master on this job, one journalist job, and that's me.
Oh.
And I go, okay. And he goes, so tell me a little about yourself. And I told him, he goes, okay, I'm going to hire you. He goes, you start tomorrow? I went, no, man, I can't start tomorrow. I just came down here. I go, it's on a Wednesday and all my tools are in Vernon and I got to tell my boss something. He goes, will you be here Monday? I go, I'll be here Monday. He goes, we'll see if you show up. Okay. He goes, I got a saying. And I go, okay, let's see if I get this right. I never will forget this. He goes, I got a saying. I go, okay, he goes, he goes, if he said, if you have no call, no show, no job, no shit, you got that? And I go, yeah, I got that. He goes, okay, we'll see if you're here.
Hmm.
Man, I was thrown to the freaking wolves. I mean, I had never worked construction like this. I mean, it was like 14 floors, you're climbing steel. And I bet you I quit 5 times that day. I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I mean,
Wow.
I was working for Danny Fancher and we're driving up around and we're going to the coffee shop at 9 o'clock and drinking coffee. And,
Yeah.
I'm working on people's houses I know. And I
Yeah.
come to the freaking Dallas Fort Worth and this is some real, I mean, these guys are working
Hmm.
and guys would be, they'd be getting fired every day. And I was just trying to stay alive, you know.
Wow.
So
Really?
that was an education for me. It
Okay.
was. And then from there I went to work for a contractor out of Wichita Falls is Clark Electric. And they were working all over the Metroplex. And how I got into security was Clark was big back in the late 80s, early 90s. Clark was big into prisons.
Okay.
And so all these little company, all these little towns that, had no industry were
Hmm.
building prisons. And we
Hmm.
had a lot of prisons in the 90s, a lot of private prisons.
Right. Right.
And I started working in there. We started doing locking systems and things like that. And I got decent with locking systems.
Okay.
And that's how I got into security. And then from there, they got this contract. They're going to print money in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
So I think it was in when was that? That was probably in 89,
Okay.
maybe 90. I went to work out there and I worked for a number of contractors and then I met my partner out there. He worked for a company called SAIC and I was running and Clark was a union contractor. I didn't tell you that part.
Oh, okay.
So Clark was a union contractor and I was not a union electrician.
Okay.
And but I got in and I knew a guy named Wayne Vardell and he got me in there. And so I had to go to Wichita Falls, raise my right hand, pledge loyalty to the union, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of exaggerating, but I'm really not,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
had to be
Right.
a union brother and all that. And that's how I got to work for Clark. And then from there, I met my partner, which we're still partners today. And my partner was he was a programmer and he programmed for SAIC, which is now Leidos, was their huge security contractor.
Okay.
And I just ran the crews. I had like 40, 50 guys that were under me. And we were putting all the infrastructure in for that building, all the security stuff. And we print currency, nation's currency there. It's pretty secure building.
Yeah.
And so we were working for a contractor and and so when it got time to finish the contract, the company that did it was SAIC. They bid $6 million on this job, which was a lot of money back then,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it cost them around 12 million to do it.
Wow.
So they lost $6 million. So they were out. They
And
were
this is
done.
just for the installation of the security system. That correct?
Installation, just the
Okay.
installation of the
Okay.
security system, right?
Once done, contract's over, and then
Yeah, yeah. They were done, and they
okay.
worked for the Corps of Engineers. And so Dave, my partner, he was like, "Hey," he goes, "We ought to form a little company." And no one can maintain this system. It's so
Yeah.
it's
You
no
guys
one can
know
do
it.
this.
Yeah.
We know it. I wrote the software. He goes, you know this building better than anybody. He goes, we ought to form a little company and bid it. And and uh and so it's like, well, we could do that. And so but we were going against a company called Ogden Services, and they wanted a team with us.
I remember Ogden. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they wanted a team with us, right? And so Ogden Services wanted to team with me and Dave because they knew Dave knew the program and I knew the installation and all that. So they needed us. But we're so freaking dumb. I mean, I think at that time I was 30 and Dave was like 38. We didn't know anything. And so they give us this contract to bid with him. This contract must have been 300 pages. And I'm looking at this contract, and so, and 300 pages is probably exaggeration, but I guarantee you 150 is not exaggeration. It was a thick
I
contract.
believe you. Federal
And
contract.
so it
Yeah.
yeah, and it was a contract. And so we go, they want us to sign it right then. And we go, you know what? Why don't we let us read through the contract? So we don't, we can't, we're reading it. It's like, and
Yeah.
so I go, hey
Legalese and
man.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And so I
Yeah.
told Dave, why don't we spend $500? Let's get a lawyer to read this. And so we found a lawyer, you know, and he's downtown Fort Worth, and he's looking at us, and he reads his contract. He goes, I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. No cell phones, email wasn't around then.
Right. Right.
He said, we show back up, and he goes, well, let me tell you, they're going to use you guys for 12 months. They're going to fire you both. He goes, he said, but you can't bid against them ever. He goes, so you guys want to do it, you can do it. He goes, you'll have a job for 12. He said, you're just going to be working for him. That's what this contract says. You'll be working for him. So we decide we're just going to bid against him. And so we told him the guy laughed at me. He goes,
Ogden
you're going
guy.
to bid. Yeah. The main guy goes, you're going to bid against us. He goes, there's no way. He goes, come on, guys. Do y'all even have any money? Because he said, we'll eat you alive. But we knew the system, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we knew a couple of guys out there. You may or may not remember or know them. Bob Hobbs was one of them. He was Corps of Engineers, and some other guys, and they liked us, and they knew what Ogden was. And so it was so funny. We win the freaking contract. We win this contract, and me and Dave never once thought about bonding. But what is a bond? You got to bond this job, And so we get this contract, and they go, okay, well, you got 30 days to get a performance bond. No one's going to give us a performance bond. We've never done anything together. We haven't been a business. We haven't been a business, 90 days.
Right.
I mean, we've never done anything. And so Ogden was so upset that we won the contract that they protested. What the protest did, they put a 6-month protest on us. So that froze it. That gave us 6 months to get a bond.
Ooh.
They didn't realize what they just did.
Yeah, they helped you.
They gave us 6 months to get a bond.
Yeah.
We find a guy, we're looking at where we got this freaking, at that time it was close to $1 million contract, and we got this contract. We can't perform. We can't come up with a bond. We meet this guy, this bonding agent's name was Jumbo. That was
Jumbo?
his name. We meet Jumbo. We meet this guy downtown Fort Worth at a place called Razoo's, back when Razoo's was a thing, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I understand you guys need a bond. And he goes, yeah, he says, what's that bond worth to you boys? And I go, well, he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, I need $50,000. You give me $50,000. He goes, I need it in a cashier's check made out to me, and I'll get you a bond. So, I mean, I think I had, some money saved up. We had everything we freaking had,
Right.
and I gave this guy, we gave him $50,000 thinking, okay, is this guy even going to give us a bond? I mean, we don't know, right? But we took a check. Gosh, we get a freaking performance bond. And that's how we got our contract.
Oh, that's a risk.
So, so anyway, awesome. I don't know. That's how we got started.
That's awesome, man. So for those listening at home, the contract was with the you talked about, that's the Department of Treasury.
Right.
It's the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and it's the Western Currency Facility in Fort Worth. It's kind of northwest Fort Worth area, right? And I know that, folks, because I used to work there. And actually, Kyle and I ran into one another when I was doing an investigation. When I didn't work there, I was doing an investigation out there, and I saw you, or maybe I started working there, but our paths crossed. I'm thinking, I know this guy from high, because Kyle, we didn't hang out in high school. We didn't know
we really
each other
didn't,
that much. I knew of you, but said, oh, he's doing, and I think that at that time you were working for either SAIC or who the.
I was working for SAIC then.
Yeah. And so, anyway, so I'm just letting people know that this is a federal thing, and it's a cool place to.
So I've been out there ever since. It's probably 90% of what we do. I've been out there ever since. And Fort Worth, Texas, we print right now. Fort Worth, Texas prints 75 to 80% of the nation's currency.
Wow, really?
They do. That plant has. Yeah, because when you were out there,
it's one building, or One building.
Yeah, but they've that building is well over. I can't say how many square foot it is because that's a security thing, but it's well over 1 million square foot.
Wow.
And when you were there, it was probably it was probably the production floor might have been 300,000 square feet. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I don't know. All I know
yeah,
is they were only printing the
yeah,
$1 bills
yeah,
at
yeah.
one
And we
point.
print we print all the
All the
currency now in the
currency.
nation. Yeah,
Yeah.
Washington D.C. His currency has pretty much they're down to tours. They do. I mean, I don't want to sell them short because other
Right.
people
Right.
are going
Right.
to listen to this and
Right. Right.
they're going to think I'm dissing DC, and I'm really not.
Right.
But we're set up on a plant. We're on 100 acres, and we're not downtown Fort Worth. I'm shut this door. We're not downtown Fort Worth and our downtown DC. I mean,
Right.
and we can print currency. I
Right.
mean, we it comes in on paper and ink on one end and comes out currency and goes to different Federal Reserve banks, and we're just efficient. We're super
Right.
efficient,
Right.
and that's how we've ended up with 75% of the nation's currency.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
So
Well, man, from Vernon, Texas to running the security system for a federal that makes money for our that makes currency for us. That's that's a great journey, Kyle. It's pretty cool, man.
well,
That's
I've been fortunate. I've been
yeah,
fortunate.
cool.
So
Now, so have you owned this? You own this company now? I thought you work for him now or something like that. No?
no. I own me and my partner own the company.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we own. It's called Electronic System Services, and we own the company.
Awesome. Do you do
Yeah.
so you don't do other jobs? This is your
We
thing.
used to do other jobs. Back my partner came from the nuclear industry, and so we did Turkey Point, we did St. Lucie. These are all nuclear facilities in Florida. We did another facility in Ohio, and then we did a retrofit on those plants again. We did a retrofit in Ohio. We've done some prisons, as far as just local installs, and we done a lot. But I think as I get older, I'm not a traveler anymore. I don't like being gone. So I basically don't do those. I don't do those jobs anymore. I
Okay.
just that's a young man's game.
Yeah.
If you want to go do that and live out a hotel and all that for six
Uh,
months to a year, go ahead.
yeah,
But
that is it.
I'm done. I'm done with that.
Okay.
You know,
Um, are there any so that sounds like one of the questions is, what's a big risk you took? But that seems like a pretty big risk. That meeting Jumbo and getting your
my fifty
contract.
thousand, giving this guy fifty thousand
That's
dollars, I
amazing.
did. Then I'm
Uh,
thinking, is this guy gonna freaking steal our money, and we're just gonna end up with nothing? We're gonna end up working for this company. Is that what's about to happen here?
yeah.
And but there was enough assurances, and the guy that introduced me to him said, "Man, I know this guy. He's not going to do that to you." You know, I go, dude, I don't know, man. I go, I'm not feeling good about this.
That's funny,
But
man.
that's probably the biggest. That was the biggest risk I ever took when I was young. I mean, it was all the money we had. I mean,
Yeah,
that was a lot of
that
money.
is a lot of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
50,000, especially in the early 90s, I guess, mid 90s.
Yeah, it was 94.
94.
It
Okay.
was 94.
All right.
So we probably won the contract in 93 and it got solidified. We won it in October of 93. They put that extension on us, that
Oh,
six
okay.
month extension. And we ended up actually starting the contract May 1st of 94.
Okay. And were you still able
Yeah.
to maintain, or do you? I assume somebody had to maintain the security system during this protest period.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you
Dave
in the
was
same
still
job?
working for us. Yeah, he was working for SAIC,
Okay.
and I was out working for other contractors. I went to work for Chubb Security System for a little bit, I was just trying to. I started working for security contractors just so I could get a security resume,
Okay.
behind my name.
Oh,
So
okay.
I worked for Chubb. I worked for Chubb, and then Chubb subbed me out to I forgot DSC, which is Dallas Security Systems. They subbed me out for a little bit,
Hmm.
and then I went back to work for Chubb, but I was just trying to get a little security behind my name,
Sure.
basically. So
So, what would you say has been maybe your biggest uh, or personal or professional milestone or since graduation? Would you say?
Man, I would say actually taking the risk and starting my own business. I mean, it was that I always wanted to have my own business. I hated working for other guys.
Sure.
Uh, I would be totally unemployable today. I mean, there's no way a guy would employ. I would just be unemployable. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm too. I want to do what I want to do and when I want to
Yeah.
do it and leave when I want to leave. They'd
Yeah.
fire me in first week. You know,
Well, that
so
makes sense.
yeah.
So how would you say has your idea from high school to now, how has
Mhm.
your idea of or definition of success changed, or has it stayed the same since you were in high school?
You know what? I think my definition of success is never been dollars and cents. It's not. I married my high school sweetheart. I married Norma. I mean, I think just having that relationship, you know, his Norma being behind me the whole time has probably been the best thing for me ever.
Awesome.
Just encouraging me, making because I mean you have a lot of doubts and you get down and you got a lot of risk and stuff on things and so I think I measure success with just a good happy home life. Honestly, I really believe that.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
you know, be honest and you know good things don't happen.
Yeah. Do the right
So
thing. Yeah. Good. All right, cool. So you mentioned your son, I think, earlier. You
mhm,
talked about
correct.
what the story, the words of advice you would tell him about, who you hang around with.
Yeah.
Is so you can tell him kind of this is where you're going to go. What has parenthood, how has that impacted you? Or what impact has it had on you?
Well, I guess parenthood, the impact there is, just trying to set a good example. I mean, really, I mean, that's, my kid was a hockey player. He played 3 years professional hockey
Hmm.
in Germany, and he
Wow.
played in Ukraine. And then he had to get a real job. When all that ended, it ended in an injury. Ended
Mm,
about 3 years ago for him.
mm,
Uh, so, I mean, I was always involved in Colin's hockey career. His name is Colin, by the way.
mhm.
Uh, we had him in 95. So Colin's 31 now. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Uh, and, uh, and so, I mean, I guess just being there, just supporting him and I think Colin's learned too that, he was never the best hockey player. He was just a person you could count on.
Mhm.
He was a defenseman, and he wasn't flashy, he wasn't showy. He was going to do his job. He was going to do the best he could to keep that puck out of that net. And he took it to a professional level. Which
Wow.
which is amazing to me that he
Yeah.
did that.
That sounds a lot like what you're talking about of having that, not being the best student or not being academic, but you had a work ethic,
Right.
and it's got you kind of where you are now. So you kind of instilled that in him. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing uh,
Yeah.
from what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, he just wouldn't go away. I mean, you tell him no, he's gonna okay. I'm gonna try it next year. I'll try it again. I don't care. I'll go try it for your competitor. You're gonna be playing me.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty
You know?
good. Way to be.
Yeah.
So what about your journey, your life from Vernon and then your career and kind of what you shared today? What do you want people to uh, take away from that? What do you want them to understand about being later in life, or uh, what do you want them to understand that they may not see on the surface? What about your journey?
I think you just have to stay with it. If you enjoy, like I said early on, I was not academic. I went to work for Fancher Electric. I enjoyed working with my hands. I enjoyed doing electrical work, and I just stayed with that. And and so I think if you find something you love and if you can stay with that and make a career out of that, you're gonna be happy. I mean, I'm happy. I am the happiest I am when when I start a new project. When I start a new project and hey, we're breaking ground and all that, I mean, I just Lord will tell you. She goes, you can just tell you just love it, and I still love it.
That's
I still
cool.
love it today, Ray. I love construction. I love it today.
That's good.
So,
You're still doing it at I mean,
yep.
we all retire at different ages kind of stuff. So you still sounds like you might be going till you don't love it anymore, but it doesn't sound like
Oh,
that's
oh,
going to happen anytime soon.
well, I mean, I get tired. I mean, I don't work near as hard as I used to. I'll tell you that
Okay.
right now.
All
I don't
right.
work near as hard as I used to, and I don't want to.
Right.
But I mean, it's still enjoyable,
Sure. That's
and,
awesome.
and when it becomes unenjoyable, that's when I'll quit.
Okay.
That's when I'll be done. I'll sell the company or I'll shut it down, one of the two.
Okay.
So,
Are there the fact that you have this game room, what
mhm.
interests, what do you do when you're not working? What hobbies, activities, what
so
do you
so
do?
I, I'll me and my dad, and I'll tell this story real quick. We are not me and my dad, or my dad is a college professor. He is not a conservative like myself. My dad is he's a Bill Clinton Democrat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we don't align a lot in a lot of things, right? And we respect each other. We don't talk politics too much. But my dad taught me when I was 6 years old, I was hunting. We had a little farm in San Saba, and I was hunting. And I love to hunt. I love to deer hunt, squirrel hunt, fish. I'm not a big fisherman, but I love to hunt.
Mhm.
And I would read books about these African hunters, William Bell, who was a big African big game hunter. I'd read these stories, and I always wanted to go to Africa. And so I've always loved to hunt, right? So in 2000, I took my first trip to Africa. I've been there for 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
Uh, I took my first trip to Africa, and then from there I started hunting in North America, and I just love to hunt. I mean, and when I be hunt, I mean I'm talking like,
So big game hunting is what
well,
you're
big
into.
game hunting, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I've been to the Arctic Circle 2 or 3 times. I've
Wow.
hunted all. I've hunted all in the Yukon, the Northwest Territories. Uh, I got a sheep hunt coming up in Alberta, uh,
Wow.
and that'll be a 20-day horse hunt. I've been on 15-day backpack hunts,
Wow.
and so I love to hunt. And then my second passion is that, and once again, I credit this to hanging out with my dad. My dad was a big Winchester Colt collector. That type, a little some modern guns, but
Mhm.
I love collecting Western expansion guns. So what is that? That's a gun that's guns that were from the Civil War to the 1940s, right?
Okay.
But even the early like 1910, the Western expansion was done. So I like collecting Western expansion guns like Winchesters, Colts, Smith and Wesson Schofields, Spencer carbines, but lean heavily toward Winchester rifles.
Wow.
I go to shows all over the nation, buy and sell, trade, and it's just like the treasure hunt. It's just a
Yeah.
hunt. You're looking to upgrade your collection,
Awesome,
and
man.
so that's probably my biggest hobby right there is
Wow.
that.
Ah,
So I was into muscle cars for a while, but I kind of got out of muscle cars.
yeah.
So
Okay. Do you have other interests, other businesses, other things like that besides the
I mean,
electrical?
not really. We
Yeah.
had a gym for a while. I loved working out. I actually love working out too. Normal was way more. Normal was way more successful in her working out career than I was. Normal won several shows. She was a figure competitor. She's a bikini competitor, uh, and so we had a gym for a while. That was kind of a hobby that never really ever did. I never made a nickel on it. I
Hmm.
ended up selling it. COVID kind of sold it right before COVID, and the guy that had it couldn't sustain during the
Okay.
COVID era.
Okay.
Uh, but
I think I've
I
been
love
to
to
that
work out.
place, right?
Yeah, you were at the body shop. You were
The
there.
body
Yeah, you
shop.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we've seen each other a couple times here and there, and
mhm.
besides reunions, and I
Right.
remember coming out there and seeing that, and it seemed like something else. Seeing it like at South Lake activities or a
Yeah.
festival or something here and there. Yeah.
Norma's big into the South Lake Women's Club, and so
Okay.
that means
Okay.
that I get to help her do all that.
All right.
I'm
All right.
so you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Cool.
so
Um,
But
go ahead.
no, that was it. No,
Oh,
that was.
well, what do you hope that your story either teaches or inspires in others that might listen to this?
So I'm telling you, it doesn't matter where you come from, and it really doesn't matter where you start. It just doesn't. I mean, I'll use Norma for example. We both came from all three of us. We all came from small towns, right? Norma came from a small town. I did, and I think that the small town work ethic, the small town, it taught you humility, taught you how to, it taught you honesty.
Mhm.
It taught you all those things, which I think we're losing a lot of that. And so I think if you could take that and channel that into your career or channel that into what you do, you'll be successful. You just will. And it doesn't, and you don't have to, you be successful in whatever. Norma was successful. She was a started off first grade teacher, became a counselor and loved every minute of it.
Mhm.
I just kind of took the construction route,
Right.
and I think that is what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter where you came from. Norma came from, you know, she was the first one to graduate college in her family ever.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, from all the way, and she had a vision to do that. I never did, and she was going to do that. So I think that's it. If I kind of talked around in circles, I didn't mean to, but
Mhm.
I think it doesn't matter where you came from, right?
Right.
Just get a path, stay with that path, and stay with it. If you hate it, don't do it. I mean, if you hate selling insurance, well don't do that. I mean, do something that you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
okay, that may kind of move into the next question, which is, uh, if you were going to write a letter to Kyle in high school, what would
okay.
you tell Kyle, knowing what you know today? What would you tell Kyle, that's 15 to 18-year-old Kyle?
What would I tell Kyle if I could talk to Kyle when he was 15 versus now? D- don't be a clown. I mean, because I think I started off that way. You know, I I probably wasn't the sharpest academically, so I think I went that route and figured out that wouldn't get me anywhere. So you'll apply yourself, and good things will happen. They just will.
Mm.
Just that. I think that's what I would say.
Okay, cool. And what do you see for yourself moving forward for the rest of, your life, or what do you see in the future?
I mean, I enjoy my life now.
You're
I
living
mean,
the
I know
dream?
I'm
Okay.
I'm getting older, and I can tell it. I'm slowing down stuff a little bit, but I'm gonna keep staying in the gym, and I'm gonna keep running up and down the mountains and
All
working when I
right.
have to.
Cool, man. All right.
So yeah,
Well, so the last thing is, are there any parting words or something pressing on
you,
your
you,
heart that you want to share in this
you know,
podcast?
you know, the one thing that I have done is I didn't mention. I'm thankful for the friends that I kept from Vernon. I've lost a couple of friends from Vernon. Steve Brown was a good friend of mine. He's passed.
Yeah.
I grew up with Royce. Royce Hammonds was a good friend of mine. He's passed. And I mean, don't take those friendships for granted, because I think I did. I didn't stay connected with some of my friends that I wish I would have.
Mhm.
I've lost track of Brett, who was probably one of the biggest influences on me.
Mhm.
I'm thankful for like your friendship, and Jenny invites us to up to her place, and I still see all that group.
Mhm.
But I do believe that if I could do anything, I would have stayed more contact with some people that I did graduate with.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's cool. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm wanting to do this podcast is, one, I didn't know a lot. I mean, I knew some people, but there are some people I had no interaction with in high school. And and so you get to know somebody like yourself. You're like, man, Kyle's pretty cool. How come we didn't hang out in high school? We just didn't run the same circles. And that we see each other at reunions, and
Mhm.
you get to hang out, and then it seems like we just kind of go back to the same cliques. There's like Friday night,
Right.
hey everybody, and then Saturday we're back to the
Yeah.
same circles, which maybe that's normal. I don't know. And I can remember a classmate telling me one time that Coach Britton told him one time, said, I don't think that person's ever been to a reunion, and saying, you ought to go to those reunions because at some point people start dying off and you don't
Right.
get to see that, and you miss those opportunities of talking to those people and getting to know them. And so this is why I wanted to share this, so people get to know who was Kyle back then, who was Kyle now, what's Kyle's story. And it's like, man, you have a wonderful, interesting story. I mean, I could probably talk to you for another 3 hours. But this is why I wanted to get this out there, just so people can just kind of hear your story and what's going on and what your journey is like and how has Vernon impacted you, if at all. And so I just want to share that with people, and this is kind of a way we can do that, I think. So
Yeah, I think it's a great. I look forward to. I don't look forward to seeing myself, but I look forward to seeing some of the other people on
yeah.
that you connect with. I
All
really
right.
do, Ray.
All right, cool, man. Well,
So
thanks again for saying yes, and I hope that the folks that are listening to this got a good a kick out of this. To me, this was enjoyable just to hear your story and what your journey's been. You and with Norma supporting you, and you supporting your son and his hockey. It's just wonderful, man, just to hear how life has turned out for you. So that's great.
well, thank you, Ray.
All
Thank
right,
you.
and we'll
Uh,
look forward to seeing you again whenever whatever activities that we're in, big
okay.
reunion coming up. And this is also going to be it's part of the 250th year, and I thought this is probably a good time to do that as well. And we're moving into the 45th year coming up for our
Yep.
uh,
It's amazing, isn't it?
yeah, 45 years out of high school. It's quite a bit, quite a long time, but we still
Yep.
look pretty good, I think, we're holding
I think we
up.
made. I think we're still living the dream. I
That's
mean,
right.
I'm trying. I'm trying hard, man.
That's
I
right.
really am.
All
So
right. Well, if there's nothing
okay.
else, I really appreciate it. Y'all, thanks for listening, and to uh, check out and subscribe. And there's for those that are looking at this is the first one we've done. So there's an intro to this, and then there'll be this video, and then there's an exit, with some pictures and stuff like that. So hopefully I can. I'm not a tech guy, so y'all just I'm from Vernon. This is the way it goes. All right, so y'all take care. Good seeing
Okay.
you, Kyle.
Good
Y'all
seeing
take
you,
care.
Ray.
All right,
All
man.
right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of In a Flash, the Years Go By podcast. If today's conversation reminded you of home, of Lion Pride, or of a chapter in your own life's journey, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe, share the episode with another Lion, and keep spreading that Vernon Lion spirit wherever you are. And if you'd like to be a guest or nominate someone with a story worth telling, reach out. We all would love to hear from you. And until next time, remember, Lions, Lions, we back you, says the class of '82.